Welcome. I'm Prabhu Chawla. Welcome to the E-Expression, the digital platform of the New Indian Express Group for fearless dialogue and debate which favors none and fears none. Today we have with us two special guests, Mr. Dinesh Trivedi, former Union Minister and TMC member of the Rajya Sabha, and Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, eminent jurist and Congress member of the Rajya Sabha, who is fighting for the party both inside and outside the courts. Topic for the debate is paralysis of the national opposition. Welcome to both of you, Dr. Saab and Dinesh ji. पहले मैं आपसे शुरू करना, Dinesh ji, I want to ask you one question. Are you in the opposition, if at all, to whom?
No, I think this is a very philosophical question. Basically, those who are not in the ruling becomes in the opposition. But if you take Bengal, then we are in the ruling. So depends from what reference point of view you are looking at. But I presume you are looking at the national perspective.
No, I'm looking at the both.
No, I think...
because ruling party also has the opposition.
So it's like this, that no matter where you are, you have always got to think about the country and the people. So once your perception is larger than being in the opposition or being in the ruling, then I think life becomes a little more clear and your objective also becomes more noble. So from that point of view, I'm not really looking at from any other point of view. That we are in public life, we are in politics, we are in of the people, for the people and by the people. But if you take the parliamentary democracy, then in parliament we are certainly in the opposition.
No, I'm going, before I move back to the national opposition, because both of you belong to the same state as far as the Rajya Sabha membership is concerned. Because it's a unique position there, where the TMC is the ruling party, Congress is in the opposition, BJP is also in the opposition, so is the CPM. All the three parties are nationally opposition to the ruling party. But what I feel is what it reflects in West Bengal also seems to be reflecting at the national level that the opposition parties are not united against each other also or for each other also. Congress is fighting TMC, TMC fighting CPM, CPM fighting Congress. So that's the model which is creating a sense of national opposition. Do you agree or not?
So Prabhu, as long as people are not fighting, you know, then I think we are all right. So if you take, for instance, Bengal, even after the election of 2019, where we lost quite a few seats, after that, all the elections, whether the by-elections, whether whatever elections have taken place, I think Mamata Banerjee's government here, we have won most of the seats, and those people who are going to supposedly to the greener pastures and joining the BJP, they've all come back to the Trinamool Congress. So obviously Bengal, Mamata is doing something which is pro-people. And as far as the people are concerned, I can tell you, they are today with the Trinamool Congress in Bengal for certain. There is no question about it, because we have a very strong leader in Mamata Banerjee and who promises what she preaches, sort of thing. And the objective has not only been to be in the position of power. The basic concept is to do whatever you have promised and do for the people. And that's why I think she is loved by the people, not only in Bengal. And I don't really have to praise her that the world knows. So we are okay. We are very, very well placed as far as West Bengal is concerned.
And Dinesh, I was not discussing performance of Mamata Banerjee as such, but obviously I expected you to bring it in. But I'm going back to Dr. Singhvi, because he represents the national party, which is so far recognized as the national party. What do you think, Dr. Singhvi, what he's saying? He's talking more about the performance of the leader. I'm talking because you represent the party which has been ruling the country for almost 65 years without interruption, and you had 2/3 of the states under you. Now, you as an opposition also don't so be a national opposition.
Now, 2 points, Prabhu. One, apropos the question you put to my friend, Mr. Dinesh Trivedi, I think the myth that you can be in opposition in a state and yet be in a convergence supporting role in the center, that contradiction, the myth of that contradiction has been exploded long ago. As you know,
Absolutely.
Karnataka to Maharashtra, West Bengal to anywhere else, this is happening now. This has been now the truth for almost 10 to 12 years in this country. And the BJP has also done it, by the way. Point number two, I think you would rarely see, and I think on this, Dinesh will agree with me, a better convergence on the floor of the House in Rajya Sabha than between these two parties. As a matter of fact, to let you know, 50 or 70% of that perfect convergence even happens with the left in the Rajya Sabha. That does not detract from the fact that we are opponents in Bengal. And the third answer to that first question of yours is that this is my personal opinion, not the Congress view. My personal view, Prabhu, is that we need to be clear that for the larger national issue which you are rightly raising, you might have to consider, see, either you consider an Ekla Chalo. That's my personal view, that, you know, for the UPs, for the Bihars, for the structurally problematic states, consider Ekla Chalo and fight for 5 years for Ekla Chalo and then put your hopes after 5 years. And you keep delaying it and therefore you keep delaying the whole process. But possibly for some other states, don't do Ekla Chalo, go around and behind the poll party, which you know is the poll party. I'm talking of national politics, and support it to the extent you can. In Bengal, it would be obviously the TMC. Mamata Banerjee is the poll leader there. So these are my 3 points in the first part. But one more sentence would permit me without exceeding a time limit. I would like most respectfully and humbly to rephrase your topic for today. I just saw it 2 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Not that I'm rephrasing it, not that I'm the editor, not that I'm the boss as you are.
No, you have the right to suggest it.
The suggested rephrase makes my point. I think it's wrong to say paralysis. I don't think that people who have lost, and somewhat badly, have been so active as the Congress, for that matter, the Trinamool, both in and out of Bengal. In every which way, there's no paralysis. But yes, I would agree with you that, and again, you represent a large swathe of territory in the south, so this is relevant for you. Our action, in fact, we've been accused of being overactive, press conferences, processions, abhiyans, campaigns, everything. But while the messaging is there in the south states, and south is different, there are many anti-BJP states, and the messaging is effective also. I agree with you to the extent the messaging, the reaching, or the conversion factor in the north states is not the same. So there you are right, but it's not to say that we are paralyzed. I think we are hyperactive. Sometimes we are hyperactive on the wrong issues, but we are certainly very active. And the fact that it doesn't get across in all the northern states is a larger structural issue which we have to discuss separately.
Okay, doctor, you may be right that there's no paralysis. You are all on the press conference and video conference is happening. Your leader Rahul Gandhi releasing video every day, raising certain issues, and press conferences are being held. What I meant is that you are the united opposition. You are not to be seen there. For example, what is happening in Rajasthan, your own state. Earlier, when it was happening during the BJP, when BJP, the governments were being toppled by your party, all the entire opposition come together and sit in front of Rashtrapati Bhavan. Now I don't see even a statement coming from state leaders. Powerful statement. I want to ask Dinesh. For example, what is happening in Rajasthan, right or wrong, I'm not getting into the merit of this. But these kind of things which are happening now, Mamata Banerjee should have been on the forefront. It can happen to her tomorrow as well. But why not? She's not doing that.
See, Prabhu, I think what you are raising today is very relevant, not only for political party, for
democracy.
Democracy itself. A democracy cannot survive without a vibrant opposition. And as far as the opposition is concerned, I can tell you, since there are only 2 national parties, and we have got to be very, very clear about it. Congress is a national party, so is the BJP national party. That we have to understand the fact of life. As far as rest of us are concerned, we are very strong regional parties. So we do not want to interfere in somebody else's business as far as that is concerned. But now, having said that, we need to recognize the fact. And the fact is, whether it is Mesopotamia, whether it is Greek, or whether it's Roman Empire, they were mighty empires. They perished. And we have got to go back to the history and find out that nobody is permanent. One of the reasons they perished is because they didn't change with time. And their arrogance was of an empire. And I'm not commenting only on the National Congress Party, but the fact is, I was reading very interestingly, and I'll just take 2 minutes, the story of the Lichvis. And the Lichvis were very strong, very, very strong in Vaishali. And after Bimbisar's death, when Ajat came, he wanted to rule Vaishali, and then he went to Gautam Buddha. He sent one of his ministers saying that, please find out what are the chances of a victory. So Gautam Buddha laid out 4 or 5 things that are this Lichvi dynasty together? Do they respect their elders? Whenever they take decision, they do consult each other. Do they respect women? Answer was yes. So Buddha said, there's no way.
Dinesh,
So
you
all
are
I'm
going to, Dinesh, you are going to philosophical history. I've asked you straight question. Are you, as a DMC party, standing with the Congress is what is happening there?
Prabhu, I was just concluding and you just disturbed me.
Okay, conclude. Please conclude.
This is the gist which came out. That if we are not united, then they send to corrupt. You know, in Vaishali it happened. So this is where if you are not united for a philosophy, in public life, Prabhu will live with perception. And today the perception is, and we have to accept it, that there is lack of strong leadership. Unless and until there is a strong national leadership, and the national leadership could emerge from a region also, it is going to be very tough, and let's accept that.
Dr. Dinesh, I'm again coming back to you. You're not answering the question. You put a very fundamental suggestion there that national opposition is absent because there is the absence of a national leader. Am I right?
Absolutely.
So it means you think in the Congress party, there's no leader as such
who
can carry the entire opposition together.
India is a very emotional country. And if you look at a strong leadership where people put their faith in it, and whether one likes it or not, politics is 24/7. You look at Mamta, even when she was in the opposition or the ruling, it is 24/7. It is not, and I'm not trying to, please don't misunderstand. It's a very grilling thing. It is absolutely, and problem in the modern day life, when you're surrounded by security, then you are automatically away from the ground reality. The security will, I'm not telling that you compromise with your security, but the fact of life is, if we are going to be specific, the Congress leadership, if you even want to take Rahulji, I think 15 years back, like Nehruji and all, they should have taken a tour of the country, not with the cameras, but with the people to understand what India is all about. And I'm not suggesting he doesn't know, but India is very, very, very different. Today only I was looking at Lokmanya Tilak. I mean, his place where he died, that guest house. And you mean to say Congress for so many years could not even take care of that guest house? It is in a horrible condition. So all I'm trying to say, nothing is lost. We can start, but we have to recognize what are the strong points of the BJP. What are the strong points of the leadership? We cannot only keep on attacking personalities. We have got to go to programs. And who's setting the agenda? BJP set the agenda and opposition goes to that. We have to set our own agenda. We don't have to follow that agenda. And Dinesh, I think these are where we are making some of the basic mistakes.
Dinesh, you have raised very fundamental issue. I'll go back to Doctor. Doctor must be listening to it because Dinesh has raised fundamental issues. He said, you are the national party, it's your responsibility to carry the entire opposition together. But he says that you don't have a leader who can unite them. There are part-time, he is stating that there are part-time politicians you have got, and therefore the opposition, I can see the opposition divided here in the discussion itself, because they feel that there is a sense of something which should be uniting. Do you agree that there is a sense of leadership in your party?
You give me some time, Prabhu, because
please.
Raised. But it's interesting and amusing that the question started with Rajasthan. Now, first,
but he has not answered that.
It's the narrower, quicker answer to your question. Rajasthan, of course, is a kind of a cyclical dual state. You, then me, then you and me. So therefore, the focus and the the equation was drawn against between the BJP and the Congress. Not surprisingly, but I agree with the second part of yours. I think later part of Rajasthan, we should have had strong supporting statements or active participation by parties. It's not that parties have not made some statements, but I think the degree of supporting, emotive, moral, and other kind of support for the Rajasthan issue was less than it should be. And that's a question where the question has to be asked of the regional parties and of other parties, because I think they are always more in threat of democratic institutions being decimated, which is what we saw in Rajasthan, and we've seen in Madhya Pradesh, and we've seen in Karnataka, etc. So I think that issue, it was surprising that some of them were little muted and mild. Of course, there has been the left speaking. Occasionally, I've seen a TMC statement, but I think also perhaps part of the fault lies with us that we were so embroiled in, and we were vigorous, not in courts, outside courts and press conferences and campaigns, but in that process, perhaps we did not drag them with sufficient force, because I'm sure they would not mind joining. Not they, I mean everybody in the. That's point one. Point two, the larger issue. Well, I take a lot of the comments of yours and Dinesh's with humility. Obviously, when the chips are down, people have a right to be angry at us and abuse us also. Of course, this is the same Congress party which after a long gap has ruled for 10 continuous years. I mean, it's not that we were down in the boondocks all along. 10 years, and we ruled a large swathe of territory, at one time about 70% plus of India. Now things change. I will confess that our leadership issue must be decided immediately. And by that, I mean simply this, that you cannot have a semi-vacuum. I have spoken just yesterday at our meeting that Rahul Gandhi took a decision in the aftermath. He had a certain view and he was strong about it. And we respected that view. But I think now sufficient, more than sufficient, inordinate, excessive time has passed. Sonia Gandhi is a iconic figure and is respected. But I don't think she is herself wanting to be in this executive role for too long. So in that context, we have to settle this immediately. And just yesterday in the meeting, I said that Rahul Gandhi should come back with all force. But obviously, this is an issue where I am a little helpless. I think this drift is not desirable, and I think this should be settled immediately. Point number three, I think you need also to realize, Prabhu, that the uniformity of a sole leader at one level is good, but that is what the BJP wants. The one thing this country, according to the BJP, must have is presidential rule. And Mr. Modi is a complete presidential prime minister who makes no bones about it. So I think we are missing a larger point here. I think the strength of India, and not only because TMC is today in West Bengal, tomorrow it may be elsewhere, the strength of India lies in its federalism. From 1991, we've had a structural change in India where we've had a large number of regional parties coming. We don't like the cacophony of regional parties. We don't like the chick. We don't like the disunity. But you know, a lot of regional aspirations are better served by regional parties. So I think we are now wanting the Mr. Modi uniformity, which I'm not fully sure of. I think linguistic diversity, the rates of growth, will be amazed. In coalition governments are some of the highest, and in regional party governments are some of the highest. So don't just think that for this certainty, for this stability, for this uniformity, you need that one India, one pan-India leader only. And last point is that there will be a necessary conflict. Regional aspirations, Mamata has to fight a left and a Congress somewhere. A Naveen Patnaik has to fight this and that party because that's his regional combination. I think where we are lacking is that we have to rise above that, rise above personal egos, rise above the problems of national governance and go flat out at the national level, giving up, ceding territory, and be ready to fight it at the local level. Now that's obviously a disconnect. It's also a Jekyll and Hyde thing, but it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing which has been happening. I'm saying it should happen better. A Jekyll and Hyde thing should happen better, and you will then only have the convergence at the national level instead of passing the buck at the national level.
But Doctor, do you concede a point with Dinesh is making again, that arrogance and absence of a national leader, because you are making Modi is the presidential prime minister. He has all the powers. He is the most powerful leader in the country after Mrs. Gandhi, I can see. And a powerful leader also needs a powerful opposition.
He wants to reimagine India in that presidential mode. He wants to reimagine Indian structure in the presidential mode.
Correct. I'm coming to that because he is the most powerful prime minister and popular prime minister since Mrs. Gandhi had. And he has acquired a lot of connectivity with the rest of the country where BJP never existed. Even in some parts of the country where the BJP still doesn't exist, but Modi's name and poster is still found in Arunachal Pradesh and some tribal villages. But in that kind of situation, you have to have a person who can also be similar looking and be present, omnipresent in the rest of the country. Mamata cannot be present. She doesn't go out of the West Bengal even. There is no other leader who can be present. What do you see in the future to counter Modi? What is the alternative? And an ideology or an individual?
You have made two questions, and it's interesting. While I agree with the first question of yours, I don't agree with the first part of your comment, which has come from Dinesh, and I agree with the second part. I think arrogance is a wrong charge against the Congress. I mean, given the levels of arrogance you have seen in the last 7 years, I think there is nothing remotely resembling that word in the last 65 years before those 7 years. Congress certainly can't be accused of arrogance. The arrogance word comes from the fact that we have been in power for a long time, and you associate power with arrogance. But the Congress has been liberal, it has been giving, it has been, in fact, according to me, 2 lakhs, sometimes 2 lakhs to a fault. It needs to be more arrogant sometimes. So I don't think that's the problem. I agree with your second part, and I agree with Dinesh's second part, which I've already explained. I can't say anything better than that. That 1 year is too long a drift for a semi-vacuum in leadership. I have no doubt in saying that. But therefore, the answers are only twofold, which I've said yesterday only. One, you have to plug this gap immediately. Two, Rahul Gandhi today has the largest acceptability despite all the trolling and all the lampooning which the BJP does. But if he is still decided, and this is if he is not prepared, then you will have to solve this problem and have whoever you want to have by a process which is reasonably democratic. This is the long and short of it. And I think the Congress realizes it. I think the time is more than it should be. But for that, you have to simply wait and hope. What else can I answer?
Doctor, what you're saying again, Rahul Gandhi, the reluctant leader you had got. He took over as president, suddenly went back and resigned, and all of you are now pressurizing him to become. But I read in the newspaper and talk to various congressmen, he is not accessible to his own party people. How to be accepted to the rest of the parties? He doesn't talk to anybody. There's no communication between him and the opposition party.
No,
How did you have a national opposition?
That's not quite true. I'll tell you, it's a little, I think, hyper-exaggerated. I'll tell you, first of all, Rahul Gandhi, once having declared, and I'm not saying right or wrong, I don't think he should have declared for as long as a year. This should have been solved in 3 months. Having declared that he wants to demote himself from general to soldier, follows that rule beyond reasonable limits, because he said, I'm a soldier, I will not deal at the leader level. That's point. He said so openly. So if there is a meeting, he says, Sonia Gandhi is the president, she will do it. So that's why you don't find the leadership connect till he takes charge. Two, I think to the extent I work with him, his style of working is definitely different. I will concede to you that Sonia Gandhi, for example, taking time may be easier. Getting time from Rahul Gandhi may not be. But he's very hands-on, and he likes to cut to the chase and doesn't like the small talk sometimes associated with Singhvi wanting to meet Chawla again and again every 2 weeks. So I think that style makes some part of the difference is the second answer. He doesn't want to just meet for chit-chat. He says you have an agenda and you meet on that. Thirdly, I think you are judging by the last 1 year. That's the problem. He says, I know local
Doctor, sorry, I interrupt you. I'm judging him from 2004 when he became first time Lok Sabha member. Since then, it's been almost 15 years. 15 years, you postgraduate almost. That he is still stuck.
From 4 to 14 is the difference in style. From 4 to now, but for the last year since he ceased to be president, I think it is his approach that, look, I don't want to be not a president and yet act like a president and get people meeting. But before that... Before
I bring in Dinesh, do you think the Congress party has the capacity to become a national opposition? You're not a recognized opposition party in the Lok Sabha even now. Do you think with this kind of leadership and fighting going on, people leaving you, Scindia leaving here, Sachin leaving there, West Bengal leaving, everywhere you're losing people and government. After that, Let me complete. Do you have a capacity to remain a national opposition, or you will also be reduced to regional party and go by the percentage of votes?
All three of us have watched as students of politics for long enough.
Yeah.
I think the condescension, the patronizing, and the hubri which the BJP suffers with the Mukt Bharat slogan and all that. History of politics teaches you. I remember very distinctly the answer to your question, that in September and December of 2003, there was not a soul. We used to go to channel Jaipal Reddy and there used to be condescending pats on the back that you'll do well. Don't worry, you'll do well. Not a soul, if you rewind to that time, thought that the Congress will come back in 2004, and not a soul thought that we'll rule for 10 years. That is the mistake which the BJP is making. I, me, myself, and after me, the deluge. Actually, you'll be surprised. Let me tell you today also. There is a huge disgust with BJP. Number two, I mean very frank, Modi's ratings are higher than his own party. He does transcend.
Which has been true, Doctor, that has been true for every Prime Minister.
He does.
Even VP Singh's popularity was higher than Janata Dal. Vajpayee was much higher than.
But to be fair to Modi, his transcending of his own party is by a higher degree. But his own rankings and that of the BJP are riven with disgust. And it is growing. If I was to just recite in 30 seconds, the fear, the control freakism, the decimation of institutions, not from governor, not to courts, not to influencing and scaring institutions, but to decimating them. The misuse of agencies, the economy, no clue. I think on these issues, people are extremely critical, and even BJP supporters are critical. But somehow it is not converting to electoral victory. And that, I think, deserves a deeper study. I have no real answer to that. Partly it is the Congress's fault. No doubt we are doing things, I mean, they are doing lots of things wrong. We are doing very few things right, it is possible to say. It is also...
Dinesh, I'll go back to Dinesh asking question. Dinesh, do you think that at the moment, Congress is not a party which can rally the opposition together, non-BJP opposition together?
See, Prabhu, like Singhvi said, that we all have seen politics for last, I don't know, 4 decades or something. What is permanent is change. And nobody is here forever. When Atalji's time and today's time, or Rajiv Gandhi's time, it's very different time. Today we are living in the world of electronics, digital world. And digital world captures your mind. It doesn't let you think. You think you're thinking, but you're not thinking, you're obeying certain orders. And we have to understand that gone are those days. And we have to appreciate the situation. And leaders are not made by position of power. And I'm not again and again talking about Mamata Banerjee. I have seen her. She will get lost. She will always, so many years after years, nobody will support. But she stood the ground because the objective was much larger than only change of government. So we need to change our objective, that overthrowing a government is a very small objective. But sitting by the people, you talk about the migrant laborers, as if the issue is over. That's the problem, that today the ruling party in Delhi will set an agenda and we all follow that agenda. We need to be very focused on the country's economy, the poorest of the poor, and no matter what, we should not get digressed. And since I was the rail mantri, I can say we should not get derailed. And the problem is we must get out of this ego hassle. And whether the Congress is there or not there, I wish them good luck. But at the same time, I tell you, I was in the cabinet in UPA 2, and we had the most democratic functioning cabinet, where even the Congress minister would stick to their ground. We had the voice, we could fight. I had to walk out of the cabinet meeting many times. So I think difference and differing opinions are very healthy for democracy. It slows down the progress, but doesn't matter. So freedom of expression doesn't mean violence. I think there is no substitute for that. And if you miss out on that, then the very essence of India is missed out. So if you have read this Constituent Assembly debate, whether it was Sarvapalli Dr. Radhakrishnan or Nehruji talked about the spirit of India. And 10 years, 15 years in an aberration. So I think whether Congress leadership is there or not, the vacuum is not going to remain. Leadership is going to emerge. Today, if you talk about one national leader, Mamata Banerjee's name comes. But Mamata Banerjee is too preoccupied with Bengal. And I think her pulses are with the people, and people recognize, because today, when you are absolutely a simple commoner, if you today live the way Mamata lives, anybody can go to her house. When
Dinesh,
she goes, there is a public, there is a
Dinesh,
I just conclude.
You're bringing again and again Mamata. No, let me complete. Let me stop you there, because what you are saying is absolutely right. Mamata names come as a national leader, and 2-3 years ago, all of you projected her as the prime minister candidate. So I saw in the official TMC.
Yeah, but I just interrupt. She was never considered a prime minister candidate.
You presented, but after that, suddenly you thought, no, it is not the time to present the prime minister. But I asked you a fundamental question. As a TMC, I'll ask, because in Singhvi is there, because they are the national party, they are the footprints all over the country, which you don't have. You are a leader who came out of the Congress because she could not tolerate what was happening in the Congress. She ultimately belongs to the Congress school of thought. There's no difference between both of them. She is more aggressive, and Dr. Singhvi's party that not aggressive that much. Rahul Gandhi seems to be much more aggressive than Sonia ji. But I'm asking you a question. Are you in favor of some kind of a consensus for a national opposition party to the BJP? Because you are going here and there. Then Mamata Banerjee will be fighting because of that, BJP could win 18 parliament seats as well. If she was well connected, then 18 parliament seats, she could not get 18 assembly seats. You gave them 18 parliament seats.
See, Prabhu, today, Singhvi Saab is a great example. When Rajya Sabha membership came, Mamata was delighted that a great parliamentarian would come, and it was not a short-sighted for TMC or Congress. You need good people. And that is where I don't think so there is any fight on ideology. But it takes two to tango. So it is not only Mamata Banerjee. People have to understand elsewhere also that given the experience of Mamata, I guess, somewhere down the line, water finds its own level.
I think again, Dinesh is trying to divert back to you that you don't have the wherewithal, finesse, or the leadership idea. There is no slogan, there's no leader, there's no ideology which can unite the various parties who are against the BJP. Because there are pro-BJP regional parties also. But I believe Mamata is anti-BJP, that's the assumption. So but why? Is it not yeah.
If I can just see, we are not anti or anything. It's the question of philosophy of this country.
When I say anti means anti-BJP ideology.
No, you try to talk what is positive about you. And I think this is where generally opposition also is making a mistake to finding fault about BJP. I think the time has come. If you talk about Congress, they have done great things in the country. If you look at IITs, you look at the space program, you have looked at Manrega, a lot of things, but they have not been able to get out of the agenda of BJP. You must follow your own agenda. Don't be dragged onto somebody else's agenda. Your agenda is pro-people. Stick to your agenda. And that is what is the need of the hour. Don't get diverted to anybody else's agenda.
Let Dr. Singhvi, I think we can be nearing the conclusion because I want to have some kind of a conclusion. Let Dr. Singhvi say, because the responsibility is yours.
I have this theory of reciprocal clashes or reciprocal egos. See, I have on record, it's not my party stand, but I have been on record many times. First of all, let me say that there is probably very few people I know of who are agitational politicians par excellence as Mamata Banerjee is. There have been other ladies in politics in the south in India, in the north state, but the degree and the focus of agitational politics which Mamta brings to the table, I think even her worst opponents concede that it is unrivaled. Number one. Number two, this reciprocal ego problem is to be solved, and it's a two-way street. The clapping has to be with the two hands. First of all, I went on record for that reason saying you make categories of states. You make Ekla Chalo states, you make coalition states, but then you have a third category, which I specifically named West Bengal. That once you analyze the vote share and the seats over the last few years, and if you find the BJP making a huge beachhead, at least attempting to, then you must support the single poll there. And I said this for the left and for the Congress. It was not accepted at a particular time, but that was my official view. And this does not mean that if you have a one-size-fits-all, for West Bengal I say it, I also say it for XYZ state. That's the second point I want to make. And I think we are not functioning like that, what is called a nuanced categorization. We are taking a blanket approach. Third, but reciprocal question has to be asked, Prabhu, and that's the question you asked. Suppose you come close to, and this is a very concrete question, an answer to your, my question is an answer to your question. You come to something like 230 in a 270 cutoff or a 272 cutoff. Now you assume Prabhu Chawla is at 230. Do I have a guarantee, not Prabhu Chawla alone, but I mean his allies and all that.
Yeah.
Do you have a guarantee that the balance who are otherwise coordinating with you in parliament, supporting you in parliament, who are otherwise with you in parliament, will not have personal egos rising to the surface to deny you that 42 figure? That is also a question. And that has happened in the past. It has happened from particular leaders in UP. It has happened in other sources. So I think that reciprocal thing has to be very clear that, look, you may not like the Congress, you may not like certain people in the Congress, but if the Congress has breached to a reasonable degree, everybody needs to be supporting it to bring it to the magic figure, because I don't see magical figures coming so easily every time. And then you can't be a spoiler. Now, just like national parties have been spoilers for regional parties have also been spoilers for national parties. And that's why you have a lack of unity which BJP gains in. If I
you have raised a very fundamental question. I am also going to raise, because you are saying order 230 number, you put it there, because Congress party,
240, whatever the figure is, that range.
For about 10 Lok Sabha election, Congress party was almost near majority or 2/3 majority most of the time. It is the first time the BJP has got to 300 marks crossed. For Congress from 54 to become a ruling party again, I don't know what magic will have to take place, because you don't have a leader, you don't have. But I'm telling, there is now growing tendency, there's a conflict between regional aspirations and national necessity of a national opposition. There's a conflict between those, because regional aspiration, we don't know who is going to compromise with whom at the last moment, because of agencies, because of something else. You win with Congress parties, you go and join BJP, or you win with BJP, you go and join party. So I'm taking out whether India will ever have some kind of a national opposition led by a national leader. That's the question I want both of you to answer. He can say Mamta is a leader, but she doesn't come to Delhi to address the press conference against whatever wrong with this government or any other government. But she was part of the BJP government, she was part of the Congress government. So she has been on both the places. You have got the DMK, we don't know where they will go. You got TDP, you have got various regional parties. We don't know what is the status of national opposition. Does India need an opposition at the national level or not, which is based on ideology, principles? Dinesh says on merit, case-to-case basis. Is there a concept of case-to-case opposition, national opposition case-to-case? It's ideology based.
100% it does need. That need, however, to be very candid, will not be fulfilled in the near future, because ultimately there are only two national parties. When you say national, it doesn't mean through a national party only. And the Congress will take some time to journey back to that position near that. But my point is that it is mistake to think that unless the Congress matches the numbers of BJP, you will not have a national opposition. It is incumbent on all the regional parties to contribute to the national opposition. It's incumbent, obligatory, to contribute to the national opposition, even though
which
BJP?
BJP?
I'll tell you the example. There are today, for the last 1 year, and I have no qualms saying it openly, if you leave aside Mamta Banerjee, two leaders of the largest state of UP have been in mysterious, inexplicable
Silence.
Unbelievable. Absolute abdication and silence. How do you talk? I mean, why do you blame the Congress? The Congress cannot take it upon itself if you don't have the largest state of UP getting activated. Some of us know the reasons, some of us guess the reasons, some of us don't know the reasons. But the point is, has it ever happened that in 1.5 years? Now, it has not happened necessarily because of the generosity and the large-heartedness of both those leaders. It has happened certainly because there is a complete decimation of democratic institutions by the central ruling party, the BJP. But the point is, unless people stand up to such pressure tactics of the ruling party, you will not have a national opposition. You don't expect the Congress to miraculously become from 44 to 272. And you don't expect the Congress to be 240 and only Mamta alone helping the Congress and you make a government. So I think everybody has their share. There has been a very steadfast person in the South, DMK. He has remained steadfast despite allurements and inducements. But what I'm saying is, for the national composite collective opposition, there are a lot of roles to be played by a lot of people who fit in the puzzle who are not playing that role.
But do you think that, because ultimately in the past, you go by the past 60, 40, 5 years of journalism, I've seen national opposition or national alternative emerge when there's a non-political factor emerging, or a person like VP Singh was a political factor, but he was supported by all the political parties, left and the BJP together. Then Jayaprakash Nand was there who created something alternative to that. Dinesh, do you think there is a need, because none of you seem to be agree on one national figure who can unite all of them? Sharad Pawar's name was floated earlier, but you never know. And is that the fear of something unknown which is keeping all of you away from uniting and coming together and fighting whatever perceived to be wrong?
See, Prabhu, it's not always in numbers, it's the quality also. I remember when we started, you were one of the very strong personality during VP Singh's time. Hardly about 7, 8 or 10 of us were, 6, 7 of us were sitting.
Yeah.
And we formed this Jan Morcha. And it took 1.5 years, but the objectives were very clear. And I don't think so we should look for A leader, B leader, C leader. I think what is of essence is credibility. Now, my friend Manu Singhvi just mentioned about some leaders in UP. Now, we need to have people with credibility. And what perhaps is lacking, and I have no hesitation in accepting, that opposition also needs to have credibility. Because, and that comes with a lot of work. It doesn't come so easily. It cannot happen if 10 people, we just go on the stage, hold our hands, put the hands on the top. It doesn't work. The times have changed. Today, the youth is looking for a definite answers. And my point is very, very clear. Nothing remains stagnant. We don't have to be worried too much. And we don't even have to say Indian democracy is gone to the dogs. Things will happen. Leadership will come. When the might of British could not stand against a person with Langot Gandhi, who had no position. He had no formal position at all. But everybody went because he had credibility. So I don't think so we should look for shortcuts. I don't think so we should look for, no, we have to win at any cost. If BJP is forming the governments at various states at any cost, believe me, if there is no value base, it doesn't last long. And my two young leaders, I mean, when you want to change a party, you can. But there has to be not only for position of power, there has to be some huge ideological reason. Mamta went because of an ideological reason. Not that she was not made the working committee president or anything like that, which people appreciate. People do not forget, if you have taken a stand on principle, well, people talk about Arif Mohammed. If somebody who takes position for principle, it doesn't go waste. So,
see,
at that
Dinesh, let me because time is now coming out. Let me sum it up, because I can see there are many regional leaders in the country, but there are hardly a national leader. Do you agree with this statement or not?
Sure.
Number two, I'm saying you raised a very fundamental question. I'm going to ask you yes or no. I don't want explanation
Sure.
like you
Yeah,
both of you are very erudite and you can give explanation. But I want to specify. You said you need a credible leader at the moment and credible party. Do you think, specifically Ahmed, is Rahul Gandhi, because National Party always leads the opposition to unite against the ruling party. I'm not going against BJP, a ruling party, and I assume the Congress Party, Rahul Gandhi, I'm asking, because he's going to the president, I'm assuming that, unless Singhvi has some other inside information which he can share with us, Dr. Saab. Do you think Congress Party can lead the united opposition in the near future under Rahul Gandhi? Yes or no?
There are no yes or no answer to this political
It
question.
means there's a hopeful. Rahul Gandhi is hopeful.
No, I can only tell you that I have personally interacted with Rahul Gandhi many times. At a personal level, he is a very amicable person. But
you say that yes or no?
The jury is still out, and people change. When Indira Gandhi was
as of today, when we are discussing,
Rahul, I'm just answering, and there is the answer that Indira Gandhi was termed as Gungi Guriya. She changed. So it all depends whether Rahul Gandhi is in to change the style. With the present style, I'm not very sure, because you have got to be 24/7, and in your house there has to be a mela. If you look at all the leaders' house, there is a mela outside the house. There's a chai wala, there's a TV wala, there are people.
Dinesh, you're saying as of now, the way he's conducting himself, he's not
now,
suitable.
I'm not very sure about the thing, but jury is still out, and there are many regional leaders who are very, very strong, and they are liked by the people. So jury is still out, and we don't discount the regional leadership. Tomorrow they can become national leaders as well.
I'm going to Singhvi for the Dr. Singhvi, you tell me one thing, because he has given what you have heard him very clearly, and he's being very person who doesn't speak like other politicians do. I'm asking you, is Rahul Gandhi and the Congress Party is credible enough, acceptable enough to carry all the anti-BJP people together?
Well, first of all, it's an unfair question. Secondly,
I'm a journalist. I can ask questions. You may like to give answer the way you want to give it.
That if you accuse the Congress for all its ills, and one of the things Mr. Modi accuses us of is that if you sneeze, it is Nehru's fault, is because of the 60 years longevity of the Congress. Well, if priority of 60 to 65 years, you can rest assured that one thing you cannot say is it doesn't have credibility. These are ups and downs. It's a bad period. And 2 elections in a row is a bad period. But certainly I would reject your word credibility completely. We have possibly the uppermost credibility at the national level. Number 2, Rahul Gandhi was very active in different roles when we won innumerable states. Those states are forgotten, almost 60% of Indian territory. He was very much in the saddle then. He fought hard when he was president. Now, you will not judge by the loss we had in 2019 elections. We lost, no doubt about it. Let me tell you, Rahul Gandhi, only one mistake I would ascribe to very candidly is to put his foot down onto taking charge immediately after, then after 3 months, then after 6 months. I think this time period is too long. There I agree with you. But otherwise, at the moment, the Congress is united behind people. That charge should be taken immediately, and he must lead us. And there is no question of credibility. You know, once you get into the saddle, the problem is this drift and this gap is an issue which has to be decided, which is why he has to, leave everything and get into the saddle.
He can provide a national opposition because what he says, Modi's slogan was Congress Mukt Bharat. Congress Mukt Bharat, with most of the states you have been removed through election or other means, you have lost most of the states.
But Prabhu, the style is of Congress only, no?
No, only thing which has ensured, BJP has ensured one thing, which I am telling you openly, that they may have partly succeeded in Congress Mukt Bharat, but they have given us a Gandhi family Yukt Bharat by speaking more and more about them and making them more popular, isn't it?
No, given there are lots of reverses in lots of places, I mean, this is also becoming partially a BJP Mukt Bharat at the state level. It's a different matter of elections. National elections, yes.
Can we see a national opposition in the near future?
100%.
Yes or no? I want to conclude.
There is the need of the hour is that.
Yes.
Number 2, it will happen. Number three, these are cyclical matters and you are at the cusp of a new start of a second electoral win. So your pessimism is justified. But you have to wait. Do you think that things will remain the same in 2022, 2023, 2024? I don't. At the rate the BJP is imploding on every issue, as far as they are concerned, they are going to have it very difficult. Yes, I agree that we have to be the receptacle to accept that implosion. And there we have to work hard. But the answer is clearly yes. And there is no question of...
I'm asking, because he has been speaking about Mamta ji more often. Do you think Mamta, because she has been the most nationally exposed, visible leader in the news?
I will put it like this.
And she can be leading the party. Why not? She can't lead the left of
the opposition. I try to be as frank as possible, Prabhu. Let me put it like this. The party which is national today is the Congress.
Yes.
Therefore, if the numbers are reasonable, we would be the natural party for the leader. I mean, let's be very frank. Obviously, if the numbers are abysmal, and I do not see a revival with Congress figures being abysmal, there's no question there of a revival at all. But if the numbers are reasonable, we will be the leader. However, there is a lot of give and take in that process. There is no arrogance saying I shall be the leader. However, ultimately it's a matter of numbers. But certainly, depending on the numbers, and having said what I've said before, Mamta Banerjee is right up there on the top of that race as well, with one proviso, provided she wants to leave Bengal. Doesn't look like she. Her heart
if she wins again for
there. So that's the issue.
If she wins again for the third time, which she probably looks like.
It's also a question of she relates to Bengal and her heart and soul is there. So it's also a matter of
but it means you are going to contest the election for a leader, which is you will number when you had numbers. You had Deve Gowda at that time. You had accepted later on Chandrasekhar earlier before that. So numbers have not been the relevance. You have been very calculated in that time. Whatever suits you, you go for that. So there is a possibility.
Prabhu, I'll put it like this. I have no doubt that in the cycle of politics, Congress will have decent numbers next time round. However, the second part of my answer is that at the end of the day, the actual numbers matter. Suppose the numbers are not decent, and I don't anticipate that, then obviously, via Mamta Banerjee, a Stalin, or anybody else can
Dinesh, then I'll let me go on. I think both the conclusions I can find out. If I'm right, please correct me. That's the last question. I don't see a more aggressive national opposition in the near future. They will be fighting for each other turf only, not fighting for the nation against anybody else. Am I right?
Are you asking me, Prabhu?
Asking you and both. But then, no, I don't see national opposition coming together.
Prabhu, I have been on a larger question. Throughout this discussion, I am really on a larger issue. I'm not on an issue of just change of a government to another government. I can tell you the entire geopolitical situation, not in India, but all over the world, the plates are shifting. And I think India will play a huge role in stabilizing the world at large. And people are looking at functioning democracy. And it is a sad thing if the oldest and the largest and the biggest democracies don't work like a democracy. It's not going to work for the world at large. So I'm again on a very large...
I think you're going into very international...
No, but that's what it is. But
when all of you are accusing the central government, the leadership of destroying institutions, at that time you're talking about all these things and not talking about how to protect them. There is something...
Not a single sentence of mine said that everything is destroyed. On the contrary, I have faith in people. People will not let it destroy. So I'm not terribly worried. If you are not getting into the path, then you say everything is destroyed. No. People of this country are above everything.
I said you have the faith in people. You repeated.
So people ultimately, who's going to be the leader? Who's going to lead? Who's going to be the prime minister? Depends not on a political party or an individual, depends on the people of India. And people of India are not fools. They have a lot of patience. They are waiting and seeing and verifying also. So whatever good is there, we have to accept. Whatever is not good, we have to
People
talk.
People of India will go for an alternative agenda which is given by an individual or a party, because you
have to give the alternate agenda.
Modi is an individual, Modi is an agenda, Modi is a mission, Modi is an ideology. As an opposition, you don't have anything so far. Dr. Singhvi, I want your final word.
Let me try and summarize it.
Just
Summarize it in 2 or 3 sentences. I think the decline of the BJP, especially, and there is a secular decline, according to me, in Modi 1 to Modi 2. At the rate it is going, it is imploding. And as I said, I gave you 7 examples, and they can be multiplied. BJP supporters do not support those examples. For example, a large number of BJP supporters don't support the decimation of institutions like happening in Rajasthan. The economy, people, anytime, and you know it, Prabhu, you go and sit behind any closed doors. I don't think you'll find a single industrialist who will mouth platitudes at the CII meeting or the FICCI meeting, saying a good thing about the economy as far as the government management is concerned. They don't have a clue, etc., etc. So it is imploding. It is going down. I see this rate, it should be hurtling towards self-destruction before 2024. However, I agree with you that we have to get our act together. I think we will get our act together. In that process, it is really a dual role, the national party as much as the regional party. You have to converge. You have to take my example of reciprocal egos, and you have to give and take. And you don't have to sabotage at the end, last minute, the last mile connectivity of personal. You know that has happened in the past.
Opposition unity depends on everybody giving up the egos and coming together, reconciliation at every point of view. Thank you very much to both of you for joining the debate. Thank you, Dinesh. Thank you.
Thank you.